What is going on, everybody? It's Luke here from Play Like a Jet. Welcome in Play Like a Jet Live, joining you this Wednesday evening to talk everything New York Jets. There's been a bit happening this offseason, from Aaron Rodgers' injuries all the way through to Jordan Whitehead's restructure. Robert Saleh made some comments today in his press conference about DeAndre Hopkins. Some people say it's coach speak. Some people think it's much more to it. So let's talk about all of it. Let's break it down. As always, if you have some questions, make sure you throw them in the chat and we will get started right now. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody. Play Like a Jet Live. I want to start talking about the news that came out this morning, and that's Jordan Whitehead's restructure. This is an interesting move for the Jets, one that I like. It is very similar to the Carl Lawson deal. In case you didn't hear, Jordan Whitehead had a $10.2 million cap hit for 2023. That's now been restructured. They've made that fully guaranteed. The cap hit is down to 4.9 million in 2023 and 3.3 in dead cap moving forward, because they've implemented void years as well. So what does it mean? Effectively, Whitehead's total money has gone from 10.2 million to 8.2. In totality, the Jets have saved $2 million through this move. Over the next 2 years, they've saved $2 million. Okay, so now they've freed up $5 million in cap space this season. Why? We're going to get into that a little bit later, but they've freed up $5 million and 3.3 has been kicked down the road. That isn't an issue. I don't want people to think that this is like a Laken Tomlinson restructure or even one to CJ Mosley, because it was all non-guaranteed money that they were moving around. So that means that realistically, the cap is going to increase next year. The Jets can roll salary cap forward. So if they don't utilize all their salary cap in 2023, they can then push that money forward into 2024, and that will offset the Whitehead money that he's owed in dead cap anyway. So all in all, I like the move. The question kind of remains, though, why do the Jets keep making these little moves to restructure Lawson and Whitehead and move cap space around? Is it because they want to bring in a big free agent? They have showed, I should say, a propensity to want to make a move like that. They tried at Fletcher Cox. They tried for Orlando Brown Jr., Odell Beckham Jr. Is it a DeAndre Hopkins? We'll get into that topic a little bit later. Is it just because they want to restructure the Aaron Rodgers deal? So Aaron Rodgers is owed $1 million next season, according to the current cap deal. Rodgers changed his whole contract for the Packers to make it more manageable for them. He's now on the minimum this year. So it's interesting to see why the Jets are doing this. Do they want to bring $25 million forward into 2023 to make the cap hit more manageable next year? Is Rodgers going to rip that contract up? We don't know. What we do know is, though, that Jordan Whitehead has now restructured his deal. He's gone from $10.2 million total to 8.2 over the next 2 years. 4.9 million in 2023, and a dead cap allocated to a void year of $3.3 million deal. Appreciate everyone with us in the chat. Dakota, Rico the Pup, thanks for joining us, guys. Talking a little bit of Jets football on your Wednesday afternoon, night, depending where you are. Dakota says, we're so stacked and loaded with so much talent. We are overall the most loaded teams now. It's a nice position to be in. I'm going to get into just how good I think the Jets offseason has been a little later in the program today, but look, it's nice to be talking about the Jets as a contender, someone who is in the top 6 favorites, 7 favorites to win the Super Bowl. That's a position that I haven't been in since I've been a Jets fan in 2009. So a lot to look forward to this season for the Jets. Rico says, I'm happy with you doing live streams. Got to build it up little by little. Your content is too good not to be watched. If you guys like the all 22 breakdown videos, next week, I want to do a live just like this, but breaking down a player together. So let me know who you want to see. If you want to see a breakdown on, Quincy Williams or a draft pick or DeAndre Hopkins or whoever it may be, let me know in the chat. And we're going to do a live stream. You can kind of see my process of what I'm looking for. I can explain it to you if you've got questions. We can just kind of chew the fat and talk about the film breakdown as well. So that's something I want to do next week. So Greg, appreciate you joining us here for a bit of Play Like a Jet live on your Wednesday. Let's move now, guys, talking about Robert Saleh's comments in the presser today about DeAndre Hopkins. So Connor Rogers from The Athletic on the Jets beat asked him about the fact that the Jets were in on Odell Beckham Jr. and whether that meant that they thought that DeAndre Hopkins was an option for them and they were going to be interested. Now, there's a couple of ways to look at this. You can say Robert Saleh was just doing coach speak, and all he was doing was saying, oh, well, it's not a big deal. We like our group. We like the players we have here in our room, and we love it. And that's just you get that from a head coach in the NFL. That's just what they do. But I found it interesting that he opened the sentence and the statement when talking about DeAndre Hopkins with no. He said, "No, we're happy with who we've got here. We're ready to roll. We love our guys." Now, am I looking too much into it? Is Robert Saleh just kind of poo-hooing the question, trying to move away? Or is he generally saying, no, the Jets aren't interested? Now, that could be for two reasons. They could not like DeAndre Hopkins, the player, or they could know that DeAndre Hopkins doesn't want to come to the Jets. And that whole body language thing we dealt with a couple of weeks ago is actually true. So I'm intrigued to see what you guys think, whether you believe that DeAndre Hopkins and those comments from Salah means he's not coming, whether he was just kind of diverting the question and trying not to answer Connor's question. I think it's a bit of a tough one to kind of get a gauge on whether it's just coach speak or whether it's something a little bit more to it. Do you want DeAndre Hopkins? Do you think he's a realistic option for the Jets? Is he an off-field distraction? I think it's been a bit torn. I know in the Twitterverse, a lot of people don't want DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like YouTube was much kinder to him in the comments. So let me know your thoughts on kind of DeAndre Hopkins. If you think the Jets should be making a play for him, if you think Salah's comments meant something, if they didn't, I'm interested to hear what you think. Ice Force says, I hate how the AFC has to get even better when we're a competent team. It does feel a little bit like that. The Jets are finally kind of setting up to attack and make an assault on the AFC and possibly a Super Bowl run. And suddenly it feels like 6 out of the 7 best quarterbacks in the NFL are in the AFC. DeAndre Hopkins now is likely going to end up in the AFC with either the Bills or the Chiefs. It just feels absolutely stacked, a lot like the West in basketball has been for the last 10 years. I know there was a bit of a movement back to the East, but it feels like every big-time superstar is playing in the AFC and even the AFC East right now, and that's pretty tough to deal with. So we're going to see what it looks like. Rico says, I can't imagine the Jets didn't call his agent, but imagine they balked at the asking price. That's going to be a really interesting thing for the DeAndre Hopkins deal because right now the Bills and Chiefs do not have a lot of cap space, but what they do have is cap health. I want to talk to you guys about this because I think it's a really interesting distinction and something that's pretty important. Cap space is obviously what they have on the books according to Over the Cap and Sport Trek and all those kind of things. But it's very easy to make cap space in the NFL, like we've just talked about with the Whitehead restructure. The Bills and the Chiefs both have up to $40 million in what Over the Cap says are easy restructures for 2023 cap space. So they can free up $40 million like this. It's super easy for them to do with deals like we've seen the Jets make. Yes, some of those will have detrimental effects down the pipeline and in future years, but some of them won't. So for a team that's in win now mode, like the Chiefs or the Bills, and they're always attacking, trying to make the Super Bowl, they can make that move for DeAndre Hopkins. So I think the price can be quite high. We're going to see what his market looks like. He may not want to come to the Jets. The Jets might not like his asking price. It could be any of those factors, but I'm intrigued to see where he lands. I've got a film breakdown on him. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still an elite football player. And look, he's not a wide receiver, one traditional top 5 guy in the NFL anymore. He's not that guy. But he's got more than enough separation skills. I think he's a really talented football player in and out of his breaks. He can win on the back shoulder. He's only 31 years old coming into this season. I very much think it's a similar move to when the Jets traded for Brandon Marshall. I think the synergy there just reflects so well on that move. He's a guy who looks like he's declining a little statistically, has battled some injuries and a PED suspension as well, but I think can do great things for the New York Jets or whichever team he lands on, probably inside the AFC. So we'll see how that works out. Ray in the chat, no Luke, no D-Hop. Any player that doesn't want to be here shouldn't be here. He can go kick rocks. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I'm interested to see if you guys buy into what he said or didn't say, I suppose, in that little Bleacher Report segment. If you didn't see it, DeAndre Hopkins got up and he said that they asked him, do you want to go to this team, the Patriots, the Jets, the Bills, the Chiefs, but don't say anything, only use body language. And when he said the Jets, he kind of shifted his eyes away from the camera, kind of shook his head in that body language of, no, I don't want to come and play in New York. Look, it is super important to say that at the time, Aaron Rodgers was not a New York Jet. There was lots of speculation, but he wasn't. He's obviously enamored with playing with Josh Allen and Mahomes and some of these big-time quarterbacks. But I don't think one of the best receivers in the last 10 years is going to look at Aaron Rodgers and go, I can't win with that guy. Garrett Wilson, he's not a good 1-2 punch. Like the Jets they're a very attractive destination right now. And if they want DeAndre Hopkins, I wouldn't read too much into that. He didn't want to come to the Jets. That's kind of my thoughts on it. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by what Robert Saleh said today. I think there is meaning to it. I think the fact that he said, no, we're happy with our group. Not, we'll see. We always look at the free agent market, but we really love our players here. And, we'll assess that. And that's a job for Joe. Maybe ask Joe that question. But I think we're in a great position. And Corey Davis is awesome. And, we saw what Garrett did and Aaron's here. And, I think it was an easy question to dodge and he somewhat answered it. So Let me know what you guys think. Rico says, thoughts on Salah, saying Clemens is up to 290 and will play outside inside like JFM. Great pivot, because that's where I was going to next. I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about why I think Jermaine Johnson can have a big season. And a lot of that was talking about how he can slot to the strong defensive end position, which is where JFM played a lot in 2022. That would allow JFM to play inside on passing downs and some of the early long down situations next to Quinton Williams. John Franklin Myers has done that at an elite level for a lot of his career. He's an excellent interior pass rusher, but has enough weight to play inside. And now you can clearly see that Michael Clemens is also up 15 to 20 pounds from his rookie season, and he's on a similar trajectory, which is backed up by Robert Suller's comments. I think this makes complete sense. Quinton Jefferson is a very good pass rusher situationally. He's not a guy that I want on the field on first down with the threat of running the football. He was one of the worst interior defensive linemen against the run in 2022 and even 2021 with the Raiders. So he's not a guy that you want in those situations. You need to be careful when you deploy Al Woods, because he hasn't got a ton of pass rushing ability. He's kind of the yin and yang. That's why there's they're nice complementary pieces for the Jets. But allowing JFM and Clemens to go inside is going to be big. Clemens has plenty of play strength. He is a huge man. As we said, Rico said he's up to 290 pounds. He can play that role. You're not going to see him on the field on early downs. But again, it gives the Jets another pass rushing option from the inside on later downs. Now you have more depth with Al Woods, Jefferson, Clemens playing inside and out. And that frees up more reps for Johnson. But it also frees up more reps for their draft pick in Will McDonald. So I think it makes complete sense when you look at the entirety and the totality of the Jets' defensive line, allowing Clemens to play inside more. You can utilize his explosiveness inside against guards. He doesn't have to take on tackles, and you can hide some of the lack of bend that he has to his game. So I think you're going to maximize the skill set of Clemens. I've got a video coming out on him probably next week, but I'm going to show you why I think this is a really natural fit for him, because what he does well, heavy hands, get off the snap, and then have enough quickness without being an elite bender like a Von Miller, a Will McDonald type prospect. So I think it's going to make a ton of sense for him. Let me know what you guys think, but I think that it's a really good spot for Clemens, for JFM, and I think it's going to lead to better play for the defensive line. Mackenzie says the fact that Robert Saleh said we're fine with the wide receiver group doesn't makes sense to me, as we were in with OBJ at the end of the day, and it's an arms race in the AFC, and you get too complacent, you get beaten. It's a really good point, because, and that's what Connor was making the point. They were in on Odell Beckham. And look, I got roasted on this on Twitter. I woke up at 3:30 this morning. My son woke me up and I saw the news. So I quickly shot out a tweet. I retweeted the press conference video, and I said, you can't tell me that you're going to be in on Odell Beckham Jr. for 12 to 13 million was the report that the Jets were in. Albert Breer said that, not fully guaranteed, but with easy to get incentives. That's a lot of money, guys. You can't tell me you're on a guy who's coming off an ACL, who hasn't had 1,000 yards in 3.5, 4 seasons, but you don't want DeAndre Hopkins. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I think you're right, Mackenzie. I think there's much more to it, whether it's Salah deflecting, whether it's Hopkins not wanting to be a Jet, and they've already called the agent, and that's the answer and the outcome. I think there is more to it, because it doesn't make sense that you want Odell Beckham. Look, people have tried to tell me that Odell Beckham's a better receiver. He's a different receiver to D-Hop. He's not. I'm sorry. Whether he's 31 or 41, DeAndre Hopkins is a better receiver than Odell Beckham Jr. right now. Yes, he's a little bit of a different type of player, and he's a bigger body, but he'd still complement the Jets offense perfectly. And I just don't fully buy everything that's circulating right now. If they were in on Odell Beckham, which they clearly were, he was coming in for a physical, guys. The Jets wanted to get that done. Very clearly, they must have had some interest in DeAndre Hopkins. I believe that in my heart, and I think it would be crazy if they weren't. Lev says thoughts on maybe getting Mike Evans. I know that's kind of become a fun story online after the horrendous videos that have been out of Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield throwing balls in OTAs. It looked like you and I were out there throwing the football. Unfortunately for the Bucs, coming off of Tom Brady, what a huge decline in quarterback play for Godwin and Evans. Look, I don't think they're going to move him. The NFC South is a division that you can win so easily. Like, one player, one good stretch of games where you win 3 in a row could win you the South. I don't think they're in a position to want to trade off Mike Evans. I think the haul would be enormous. The Jets are already down assets next season with either a second or a first. It makes it difficult to acquire Evans. I would love him to be a Jet. Mike Evans, the only receiver in NFL history to start with 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's a beast. The fit would be fine in the offense. He's younger than D-Hop. I just don't think they're going to be able to pry him away from the Bucs, nor are the Bucs looking to trade him. So that's kind of my take on the Mike Evans stuff. Love Bite says Suller is not the GM or an OC. His input on offense doesn't matter. He bought Matt LaFleur. If the Jets don't really want to make a move to get D-Hop like they did for OBJ, then something is up. D-Hop is a beast. I think that kind of sums up where I'm at. I pretty much agree with all you guys. I agree with Love Bites there. Look, I wouldn't say Suller, his input doesn't matter because he's still the head coach, but I think clearly his expertise lies on the defensive side of the ball, and Hackett and Rodgers are going to have more say in some of these moves going forward. Ice Force says the South hasn't been down this bad since 1856. You're probably right. Ronald Perry in the chat. Hopkins doesn't want to come to New York. Stop. That's embarrassing now. Not far from begging. Look, guys, I might be wrong. I still don't read that much in to a Bleacher Report fluff piece about body language. I don't. When Aaron Rodgers wasn't the quarterback, I'm not coming to play with Zach Wilson either. So look, I don't know. I just think we're being a little quick to jump to conclusions based on a very little fluff piece from Bleacher Report, so we'll see. Mr. Dean says blocking matters, though. OBJ versus D-Hop in that regard. Maybe that's the difference, combined with the age and money. I think throwing the shade toward the Jets was a deal breaker. It could have been. Look, if you get publicly humiliated and that's how the Jets saw it, that could be a factor. As far as the blocking, look, Alan Lazard is a good blocker. Corey Davis is pretty close to an elite blocker. As far as OBJ versus D-Hop, they both don't block. They don't want to borrow that rubbish. So I don't think that was a factor between those two particular players. Yes, it's been something that's very important to Mike LaFleur. He wants players who can play the X, the Y, the Z, the H-back spot, everything, and that's why he didn't like Denzel Mims. I think Hackett's going to be a little more traditional. He's happy for his guys to be good at one thing and to do it really well. I don't think D-Hop's blocking is a reason that you say I don't want him to be a New York Jet. They've got enough of those blocking types. You can get a guy who's a great complement to Garrett Wilson and gives you, I would say, a top 3 1-2 punch. Here's a question for you guys. If the Jets land DeAndre Hopkins, where do you think their 1-2 wide receiver punch lands in the NFL? I'm going to say 4th. This is something I asked Twitter. I think the best duos in the NFL right now are Chase and Higgins, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I think the Jets are just better, just better than Evans and Godwin because of quarterback play. And I just think D-Hop is better than Godwin at this point of their career. And then I think Miami's obviously above us as well with Waddle and Hill. I think they're the 3 best. So I think we're the 4th best duo if we were to get DeAndre Hopkins. So interested to see what you guys think, but that's about where I have the team. Sergeant Mike in the chat says, can we send Suller and his DC to Rex Ryan's blitz school? Rushing 4 on almost every down is too predictable. Rex with this defensive line would be like the 85 Bears, which was obviously coached by his dad. It's interesting because there's a lot of analytics that say the Jets did a fantastic job last year. So if you look at, there's a graph up online about talking how the Jets blitzed the least in the NFL, or in the bottom 3 for blitz percentage, as Mike said, but they were in the top 5% or percentile in the NFL for getting to the quarterback via pressure. So the Jets did a really good job with their front 4. That allows you to play more drop down zone behind it and to be that bend don't break defense that the Jets kind of want to be in this cover 3 shell. So look, I understand what you're saying, Mike. The Jets not being as vanilla, it would be fantastic to see them blitz more. But ideally, if you have a front 4 that can get to the quarterback, that is an enormous advantage in today's NFL, because with the speed, being able to play too high does so many things. Like, I'm a huge proponent of playing cover 4, cover 2 shells. Robert Saleh doesn't do it as much. But if you can take away the middle of the field with 2 deep safeties, I think it's enormous. I think it's going to play better to the strength of the defense this year, because neither neither Whitehead nor Clark are traditional free safety. You'd be relying on Adams to play that role. So I would really like the Jets to play a little more too high this year, and rushing 4 is the best way to do that. So I get your frustration, but this is actually something I'm okay with. The Jets investing in McDonald and getting an extension for Quinnen Williams and JFM and Clemens and JJ and everybody else they have on that line. If you can rush with 4, it's a huge benefit in today's NFL. So kind of that's my thing. Rico says, yeah, like we were still 5th in sacks in that scheme. So I kind of get both arguments, but it is pretty cool to see that we can get pressure with that line. So we'll see how it unfolds. Ronald Perry, yes, thanks, mate, and top of the morning to you. If you're here in Australia, it's currently about 20 past 10, so a little earlier in the day. Love Bite says, Salah's scheme is really good. Just add some exotic blitz packages here and there, and other than that, the defense is very good. And I think that's right. Are we going to have some regression because of how many backup quarterbacks we played? Possibly. Then you can factor in that Zach Wilson was terrible last year and they were on the field a lot. You can factor in the fact the safety play was the worst in the NFL, and surely it's going to regress to the mean somehow. So there's arguments to say this defense can be as good, if not better, in 2023. So we'll see how that looks. What I want to transition to next, guys, I'm interested to see your thoughts. This is the part that I'm most interested in today's video. I want to grade the Jets offseason, but there's a caveat to that. I want to talk about the Jets offseason without Aaron Rodgers right now. Let's park Aaron Rodgers to the side. I don't want to get into the debate about whether the Jets overpaid. Look, the Jets did a good job getting a franchise quarterback. He's here for 2 or 3 years, 1 year, whatever it is. We know that. Let's put it to the side. Here's my question to you. Do you think the New York Jets did enough or have done enough this offseason to improve their roster outside of the quarterback position? So we're talking wide receiver, safety, linebacker, offensive line, edge position. How do you think the Jets have done improving the roster? I'm intrigued to see what you guys think, because yes, this whole offseason has felt like it's about Aaron Rodgers, but this team isn't just simply a quarterback away. There are more pieces that have needed to be improved that have been improved. Do you think the Jets have done a great job? Have there been not enough moves? Have they been terrible? Has JD been slacking? Have you wanted to see a move for a big receiver? Let me know what you guys think, because I'm interested. I think there's going to be some varying opinions here. Some people thinking the Jets roster just needed Rodgers, so we are good to go. We bumped in Lazard and we're set. Some people thinking the Jets didn't upgrade safety. They've got Quincy as their second linebacker, who was inconsistent, in my opinion. They haven't brought back Quan. They haven't brought in any competition. They're relying on Sherwood. OT is a huge question mark. What do you guys think? Get in the comments. Let me know, because I am honestly interested, very interested to see what you guys think, because here's my 2 cents. I think JD has been okay without being great this offseason once you remove the Aaron Rodgers trade. And I understand that you can't actually take away the biggest move the Jets have made. In isolation, I want to get rid of it, though. I think the Jets have got serious holes in the main positions they went into the offseason with. Offensive tackle, safety, and linebacker, for me, were the 3 deals that I looked at and went, the 3 positions I looked at and went, they're big holes there. The Jets need to upgrade. And the safety market this offseason was really cheap. There were a lot of really good options. There's still John Johnson available in free agency. The Jets have stayed away from the safety market, though. They haven't touched it at all. So they believe they're good there with Adams, Whitehead, and also Chuck Clark. Then I talked about linebacker. We lose Quan. We've only got really 2 starting linebackers on the books in Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley. They didn't add there. Do they think they're strong enough there? Do they think there's enough depth there with Sherwood and Nasruddin? I have question marks about both those positions on defense. And yes, they're both not blue chip positions. They're not going to win you and lose you games all the time. But the video I made on the safety play, check it out on the YouTube channel once we're done here, I think kind of shows you that you can still lose games because of the play of your safeties. I would like to see a bigger upgrade at both of those positions. And then wide receiver, someone mentioned earlier that it was an arms race. I think the Jets, look, their wide receiver group is deeper than it was last year. Don't get me wrong, Lazard is a good player. Hardman is an upgrade on Berrios. But Elijah Moore is also a really good prospect and player. They had a lot of talent. He just didn't want to be here. I think the Jets marginally improved their wide receiver core. I don't think it was huge. We'll see. A main catch, 3 if you're adding Cobb. His original comment, I'll chuck it up on screen, said, we did good, not great. Upgraded safety, bolstered the line, and added 2 good wide receivers. We did upgrade safety. Chuck Clark's a good player. But again, he's not a free safety, and that's what worries me. I think if they're relying on Adams, who's only really started 2 NFL games in his career, was an undrafted free agent, I think that's a lot to put on a young player in a win-now defense. And I understand this isn't Madden. You can't accumulate all the best players all the time and have elite starters at every position. It just doesn't work like that. This is the NFL. There's a hard salary cap. But I still think they could have done more in a very cheap safety market, but we'll see. Rico says that safety film was absolutely brutal to watch. It was terrible. I hated making that video, but it's for a point. It's to show you that the Jets, they have to get better at safety. Chuck Clark's going to be a big part of that. Maybe Adams, so we'll see how it looks. Sergeant Mike says, Joe G did his best with the Woody killing his leverage, but Jets' improvement will be driven by how hungry and self-motivated Jermaine Johnson is, Ruckett and other young players to improve. That's also a factor. We haven't talked about it when we look at the outlook of the 2023 season. Jermaine Johnson can take a big leap. Jeremy Ruckett's been the talk of OTAs the last 2 weeks. Reports he's doing extremely well with Conklin not there. Has done a really nice job stepping in and getting some first team and second team reps with Wilson, with Rodgers when he was healthy. So that's going to be a factor. I still think this is a team that's going to be won and lost by some of their veterans and also guys like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. So we will see. James says the thing is a great quarterback can hide a lot of these holes. And that is completely true. And that's why it's wrong of me to actually say, let's take away the Aaron Rodgers deal. I just didn't want to get into that whole trade debate. Look, you're right. Aaron Rodgers has overcome mediocre weapons last year and still looked pretty good with a avulsion fracture in his throwing thumb. Like, that's a huge injury. And he still had 25 touchdowns, a QBR in the mid 60s, and was realistically, a top 10 quarterback still, top 10 to 12 quarterback. I expect him to be better this year, and I think he is going to lift up the entirety of the Jets roster. You are 100% right, James. I think that's something you can ask for. He's going to get the defense off the field more. You're going to have lighter boxes for Breece Hall when he comes back. You can't just stack the box because Zach Wilson couldn't throw the football. I think things are going to get better. I just wanted people to think about the entirety of this Jets offseason and if they've done enough, because they've made some moves. They've made some attempted moves. As I've said, they tried to get Fletcher Cox and Calais Campbell, Odell Beckham Jr., Orlando Brown. A lot of these guys, they've had some big swings. So is there more coming? Are they just clearing room for Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. But I just thought it was an interesting discussion to have about kind of where this team is and how we've done this offseason. Ronald says, no need to improve the wide receiver group. It's already good. We just didn't have a quarterback. That's a completely fair take. I totally understand why people think that way. The Jets probably have a top 10 to 15 receiver room in the NFL. I think Garrett Wilson is clearly going to be a great wide receiver one in this league. I was wrong about him, guys. I had a video out during the draft where I said that I wouldn't touch him in the top 10. Completely proved me wrong. I'm happy to eat that one. That's a huge win for the New York Jets, and I will take that any day over trying to be right. Lazard is a good number 2, not a great number 2. Corey Davis is still a really good football player. You've got the depth and the speed and the threat of McCole Hardman Jr. and what he can do as a deep threat, as a jet sweep guy. So, look, I get it. I think the quarterback is obviously extremely important. Lovebite says everything so far has been good. Chuck Clark, Al Woods, Lazard, OT bodies. I still think we need to beef up at the safety position. And other than that, maybe we'll get D-Hop, another wide receiver 2-1 if possible. I think the defensive line depth has been really good. Obviously, you had Will McDonald. He's an absolute baller. I'm a huge fan of what he can do. If you haven't seen my videos, check him out, guys. He is bendy, he is long, and he's going to be playing in a much better position. Expect big things from Will McDonald in a limited role this year. I like the variety that Woods and Jefferson give you on the inside. I think we really have improved on the defensive tackle spot, especially when you factor in that you're getting these 2 players in Jefferson and Woods to replace Rankins. That's a plus there, no doubt at all. But then on top of that, we just talked about JFM and Clemens playing inside more. So I think in totality, that position's definitely improved the most. I think if you said to me, which spot do you feel best about coming out of the offseason? I'd say it's defensive tackle, because that was an issue coming into it. The Jets needed to make some moves, and they've done exactly that. Dark Soldier in the house. How you doing, brother? Hope you are well. Rico says he loved the Woods signing in particular. He's not Snacks Harris in his prime, but if you want to run stuff, well, we got one. And that's completely right. Al Woods is going to get 2.5 sacks this year. That's not what he's brought here to do. He's going to 2-gap. He can stand up people. He can still shoot the gap for a guy who's like 330 pounds. He's a special kind of athlete. Yes, he's 36 years old, but he's brought in here to get the Jets in more second and third and long situations. Then you get JFM on the field. You get Quentin Jefferson. Bryce Huff, a guy we haven't even talked about. He gets on the field when the Jets are in obvious passing situations. How do you get any more of those? You stop the run. You win on first down. Al Woods is going to be a huge part of that. I honestly think he's been one of the biggest additions, both literally and metaphorically, this offseason. I think it's going to pay dividends for this defense. You've got to win on first down. You've got to stop the run. That's something the Jets have not been able to do since Foley Fatakazi left. Quinnen and Woods inside, that is a really difficult group to run against. JJ is an elite edge defender when it comes to stopping the run. He was in the top 10 percentile last year in run stuffs. He had like 50 solo tackles, but hardly played last year. He played 27% of snaps. So that's awesome to see. This Jets defensive line is going to be better against the run. And people are so caught up in this PFF narrative of the run doesn't matter. The run doesn't matter. But if you stop the run and you force teams to pass and make them predictable and have the lead more, you're going to win football games. So let me know what you guys think, but I think you're right. We're going to see. Mackenzie showed that says that safety Adrian Amos is a need for this team, but I believe teams are going to call us the Jetpackers, but he's a dog. And Whitehead just took a cut. So yeah, obviously Whitehead's going to be here. All his money is fully guaranteed now. As I said at the start of the video, he's gone from $10.2 million to 8.2 over the next 2 years. 4.9 this year, 3.3 in dead cap, void year next season. That's what his deal looks like. He's going to be here no matter what. Adrian Amos is an option as a free safety type bringing in. John Johnson, who's played at the Rams, the Browns, he's another option as well. So there are still some guys out there in free agency if the Jets want to bolster their safety position. The main catch says, I would get Hopkins if possible. I think Wilson will be even better with a strong number 1 or 2 to take some of the safety pressure off him. I think that's completely true. I don't think Lazard is going to demand that kind of respect. I think Alan Lazard's a really good football player, and I like his tape. I like his chemistry with Rodgers. But I think if the Jets upgraded that position and made Lazard the 3, and then could even cut Corey Davis, that would be the ideal position for this wide receiver group from me. So I kind of agree with that very strongly. Michael in the chat, can you imagine that the jump Jermaine Johnson's going to have this year? I'm honestly really excited about this. I think JJ's an awesome player. I wasn't an advocate for taking him at 4, but I said 10 would be great. We got him in the mid-20s. I think he showed plenty as a run defender. JJ's success this season is going to be whether he can continuously win with his pass rush move, which is his cross chop, his Euro step footwork. He likes to get to the outside. We're going to chop down the hands. We're going to bend around the edge. That's how he wins. He doesn't have a diverse bag necessarily. He doesn't use a ton of speed to power. But if he can be successful with implementing that move and can mix up some more variety to scare tackles through the chest, that, yeah, Jermaine Johnson can beat me with a bull rush and speed to power, so I can't just have my hands up like this and not give him a target so he can't beat me on the outside. That's going to be where the success of JJ lies. He's going to have more time on the field. I'm really excited to see how he goes this year. I thought the tape was underrated last season. So also got a video up on JJ. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. Ray says, Luke, my concern are the backup safeties and linebackers if our starters go down. That's completely true. And as I said, you can't have elite backups at every position, but I think the linebacker and safety spots are really weak. Like, honestly, if you say Whitehead and Quincy Williams are our linebacker and safety 2 respectively, they're already pretty weak, never mind what's coming in behind them. So I'm a little concerned about that too. I think we're very thin in the middle part of our defense. You talk about the linebacker spot and the safety spot. We're pretty thin and weak in both of those, but they aren't crucial positions. So we'll see if Salah can kind of work around that. He was a linebacker coach, so we're going to see. Going back to JJ, Rico says, Luke, the video on JJ showed that he's got that Euro stop down pat. Do you think he takes another step and gets the speed to power nailed down? He definitely can. He's an explosive guy. If you look at his combine, he showed that he's still got the ability to, with the broad jump and the 40 and that kind of thing. He can be that twitchy athlete. It's just never been really his game. He doesn't need to be an elite bull rusher. He doesn't have to be, someone who comes in and gets 10 sacks through the chest. He just needs to show enough that the tackles have to play with their hands up. Because what I mentioned in that video was tackles play Jermaine Johnson like Lane Johnson plays a lot, and that's without hands. He says, hit me in the chest because I don't think you can come through me. He wants them to give him hands, does Jermaine Johnson, because then he can swipe them away and he can bend around the corner. And once you defeat the hands of the tackle, you're going to win the rep. So he just needs to get them to respect the bull rush. That's really all it is, Rico. If he can get them to just, expect that bull rush a little more and to be a little threatened by it, I think the Jets are going to be completely fine. So I'm completely with you. I know what you mean. That's all good. Mr. Dean says, I'm an OSU fan and I'm extremely excited about Ruckett. I'm excited to see some of the youth we have on the back end ready to show what they have to help improve this team further. Ruckett's an interesting one. The Jets didn't really add a safety until late in the draft with Zach Kuntz, who's an absolute freak, the most athletic tight end to come out in the history of the NFL draft. That's not hyperbole. That is just fact based on the numbers and the data. Ruckett's going to be interesting. Last year, he did a little bit, didn't get a lot of playing time because obviously the Jets brought in both Conklin and Uzama. They played a lot. Conklin had a lot of catches, a lot of volume, not a lot of yards per catch or yards per target, but had some drop issues as well. Didn't love his season, but thought he was good enough. Ruckett showed a lot as that kind of H-back, fullback blocking type tight end. I think he has a little bit more flexibility with running down the seam. That's the strength of Jeremy Ruckett as a pass catcher, is his ability to stretch the the field down the seam vertically and then run stick routes and things like that, where the chains are. So I'm not sure if Ruckett's going to be the tight end one this year. I don't have that expectation, but I think he can be more of a contributor, as you said, being an OSU fan. I'm sure you saw plenty of Jeremy Ruckett running down the middle against Alabama in the playoff and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a talented guy. We're going to see if he can back it up. Rico says, hit that like button. We've got to motivate Luke to know he live streams more. I'm trying to do a video every single day for the film breakdowns. I want to get there once a week to get in the live chat to talk to you guys and kind of break down a little football. So I appreciate it, Rico. Nate says, who are the two starting safeties and starting wide receivers week 1? It's a great question. I honestly believe that when the Jets are in their traditional cover 3, cover 1, the starting safeties are going to be Tony Adams and Whitehead. And I think Chuck Clark was brought here to play, yes, some safety, but also to be that third down linebacker, nickel backer spot. So that's something that Robert Saleh, Todd Bowles, a lot of these defensive coordinators use when they go into big nickel. They want 3 safeties on the field. That's where I think Chuck Clark is going to thrive. He isn't going to play deep safety. He can play too high. He can play strong safety, but I think they're going to use him in that nickel backer, third down linebacker type position as well when the Jets want to get a little more pass coverage on the field. So I actually think Adams and Whitehead are going to be the starting safety. I could be completely wrong there. That's just kind of what my instincts tell me. And then for the wide receivers, I think your starting 3 wide receivers are going to be Garrett Wilson, Lazard, and Corey Davis. I think they're the starters come week 1 when the Jets are in 11 personnel meaning 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 3 wide receivers. I think McCole Hardman is going to be used more as a package player like he was in Kansas City. Look, he's more than just a gadget guy, but I think that's the best of him. I think he's going to be used in that Braxton Berrios role. I think he's going to be the 4th wide receiver. Cobb's going to get sprinkled in there. He's there as a veteran presence, someone who can help speed up the implementation of this offense with Hackett, can help Aaron Rodgers with familiarity. So that's kind of my thinking. I don't know what you guys reckon. Jet Streamer says Michael Carter 2 is in the slot, 100%. Carter will be in the slot. In the big nickel package, they take one of the linebackers off the field, an extra linebacker. So, for example, they may just have a front 4. You then have Michael Carter in the slot. You've got CJ Mosley and Chuck Clark as the 2 linebackers remaining, and then the 2 safeties as well, with the corners on the outside in DJ Reed and Sauce. So that's kind of what it would look like on third down. Effectively, you're looking at a dime package. So that's what I think Chuck Clark's role is going to be. But you're right. Michael Carter's a slot. He was a top 10 slot guy in the NFL last year and played extremely well. So we'll see what it looks like. Sergeant Mike says Rodgers will blow away all existing Jets single-season passing records, and I'm a fan since '68 and love Broadway Joe. It's going to be so exciting, guys. The Jets haven't had a 4,000-yard passer since Joe Namath. That has been a long, long time. I, for one, am going to be thrilled to see Ryan Fitzpatrick out of the record books as far as most touchdowns in a season. There's a good chance Rodgers just rewrites all of them over the next 2 years. And I think that's pretty exciting. I think you're right, Mike. That's awesome. Talking about dime there. So I should have explained that a little better. But yeah, Michael Carter in the slot and then that nickel backer role to give you even more coverage ability. Rico says, Luke, your thoughts on Brees? Salah said he hit 22 miles an hour on GPS, but I still think we've got to ease him in. I think the Jets believe that too. There has been a lot of smoke, and I'm not sure how much of it is true, that the Jets are looking at Dalvin Cook. And look, it doesn't make sense to me, but there's a chance they are, because they drafted Izzy Abanikanda. Michael Carter's still here. Bam Knight was pretty good last year. They clearly don't want to throw Brees Hall straight in to be the starter. I would say he's not going to get the majority of reps until week 4, week 5. I know that's a little frustrating, but you're coming off an ACL. You want to make sure he's not getting too much of a workload, that he's healthy, and you don't hamper his long-term development. So I think the Jets clearly believe that Brees is getting healthy. He's on track. He can play week 1. That's what Salah was hoping for today in the presser. But I still do believe that, they're going to ease him in gradually, and they're not just going to give him the lion's share of the handoff straight away. I agree with you, Rico. I think that's what's going to happen, and that ultimately, it's great that he's hitting those high speeds. Someone said, Brees Hall on that 62-yard touchdown against the Broncos only hit 21 miles per hour. So he's already hitting his max speed, which is awesome. But there's a bit more to it than that, with change of direction and everything else that goes into being a running back. So we'll see. Bethpage Chris says, I love the film breakdowns. Great videos. I appreciate you. I always say it, guys, if you've got ideas for other videos, other content you want to see, other players to be broken down, whether in the live I talked about or just in these 10-minute all 22 film breakdowns. Get it in the comments now. Comment on the other videos. I want to make the videos that you guys want to see. We've got like 70 days until there's Jets football in the preseason. So I've got plenty of time to make these videos. Let me know who you want to look at, and I'll try and kind of appease you and get those guys in. So I'll do the best I can. The main catch, appreciate it. Thank you very much, man. Jet Streamer agrees with us that we need some running back depth. I think they've already got pretty good depth. Bam Knight against Chicago showed that he could be a pretty good player. I think Michael Carter plays better than last year. I loved his tape at UNC. I thought he was really good as a rookie. His yards after contact, his balance, his short area quickness were fantastic. That all went away last year, and that was really disappointing. I'm hoping that he's healthy, that he's got the right mindset, and MC can play much better, because I think he's a talented footballer, and he's not someone that I'm willing to write off yet. So we'll see. I agree with you. I'm excited to see what this running back room can do. I think Izzy is a great complement to Breece Hall, because he can do so many of the things that Breece can do. He's great in a zone running scheme. Pittsburgh used him in more of an inside zone, but he's got great vision, one cut ability, can get north-south, and then he has that second gear. He's a home run hitter just like Breece Hall is. So I was excited watching his tape when I put on the Pitt film. I think he's a really nice player and great value in the 4th round. So I was a big fan of that. Rico says, I'll say it again, please do a video of Devontae Adams and Hackett's system and how that could translate for Garrett Wilson. I think that's the next big video coming up. I'm going to look at Garrett Wilson's success last year and then kind of compare it to how number 17 was used in Green Bay in 2020 and 21. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's an argument that can be made that Garrett Wilson was the best wide receiver at beating one-on-one man coverage last year. And that's something Devontae did so well. I thought Hackett did a great job using Adams in the red zone and using him in motion to free him up. I'll translate some of those things to the Garrett Wilson video, but I think that's a good idea. I'm pretty excited to see Garrett Wilson with Rodgers. I think that's going to be incredibly special. And you want to talk about rewriting record books, I think Garrett Wilson could get pretty close to that Brandon Marshall 2015 season as well. So we'll see just what kind of monster year Garrett Wilson can have. But we will see. Love Bite says, isn't an RB2 from the Browns available? I'd rather we get him than Dalvin Cook. Possibly. There's a chance that Hunter was their running back 2 last year is on the move. I think he's a pretty nice compliment. Again, he can do a lot of things in the passing game. He could be a third down type back. He's got some versatility. He can still run between the tackles. Obviously, they've got Chubb there as their main running back. So if they want to move off of Kareem Hunt, they have the ability to do that. And the Jets could definitely make a move for him if they so choose. So we will see. Mike says, I can't wait to see your post-game film after each of the 50-point breakdowns. So we're going to give the Pats. I can't wait to beat the Pats and the Dolphins and the Bills. Man, we've been the punching bag of the AFC East for way too long. It's going to be exciting to get out there and actually be, the team that can dictate and dominate these matchups and take it to other AFC East teams. That's going to be pretty exciting. So I'm with you. I can't wait to make those film breakdowns too. It got to about week 8 last year. Everything fell apart and it was pretty tough to make content, I'll be honest with you, but excited about what the Jets projected 2023 season looks like. Guys, I'm going to be on for about 5 more minutes. If you've got any more questions, if you've got any more thoughts, ideas, chuck them in the chat. Chris says, would like to see a video. You and Jake do a video if you haven't already. I haven't. I'm open to it for sure. Ray says, Luke, who do you think will be a cap cut? Interesting question, because the Jets right now have the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. After the Whitehead move, they have $24.3 million. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Cap space in 2023. As I said, some of that could very easily be used to kick Aaron Rodgers' cap hit larger for this year. I didn't explain that very well, but he's only on the books for $1.5 million this year. So there's a chance they could inflate that to $20 million. And that's what all these moves are for. And there could be cap cuts coming. If they add a wide receiver, Corey Davis is an obvious cap cut because he only has, $600,000 in dead cap, and the $11 million is completely, reclaimable, for lack of a better word. It's non-guaranteed. So Corey Davis is probably still the guy. Whether they restructure or cut him, he's probably the only one left that I think is a really obvious move. I would hope they don't touch CJ Mosley's contract anymore. I don't want to kick any more of that guaranteed money down the road. I think you just focus on the moves they have been making, and that's the non-guaranteed contracts of Lawson, Whitehead, and the last potential one of Corey Davis. So that's kind of how I see it. You don't want to harm your cap health down the road. Just kind of keep it to 2023 and non-guaranteed money. The main catch is I'm a big fan of JFM moving inside so JJ can get his starting role as the 1st round pick. Let's go Jets. I agree. And I talked about a lot in that video. I touched already in today's video, but I think JFM going inside is a great move for the all-round success of this Jets defensive line. I think it's better for JJ's play. I think it's better for JFM on third downs to be inside more. I just think it gives the Jets a whole lot more flexibility, and it allows them to get their young stud players like McDonald and JJ on the field more, and that is going to be key if we're going to have success. Robert Saleh loves waves of players. The Jets' secondary pass rush this year is going to be so much better than the unit that was on the field last year. It was like Solomon Thomas, who is still a Jet. You'd have Clemens on the outside where he's going to be inside more. You had Nathan Shepard on the field a ton. The second unit is going to be exponentially better this year. I can't wait to see it. Cyber says, Luke, really appreciate your content. Who's your starting five up front? This is going to be the interesting question. I'm sure we're going to have videos coming out on this. The offensive line is going to be intriguing. Mekhi Becton wants to play left tackle. Dwayne Brown is a left tackle. Elijah Vera Tucker is the Jets' best right guard and right tackle. You've got two people competing for the center spot. Here's how I think the line starts. If Tippmann can get his head around the offense and his communication with Rodgers is good, I think he is the starting center from day one, and McCoven is your swing interior lineman. So I think the lineup goes Dwayne Brown left tackle, Tomlinson left guard, Tippmann at center, AVT at right guard, and Becton at right tackle. Is that what I think is best? Probably not, but that's the Jets' best five, and that's what they want to get on the field. I think Mekhi Becton can be one of the best left tackles in the NFL if he stays healthy. I don't think he's going to be given that opportunity in camp. As much as the Jets say it's a competition, they're going to want him to play right tackle. That means Vera Tucker can play right guard. Dwayne Brown has a spot on the field getting paid $11 million. I think that's going to be the Jets' starting offensive line. Whether we agree with it or not, I think that's the line we're probably going to see. Revolution 86 says, Luke, love the channel. Do you think we use Hamza Nasruddin, more this year? I feel like he wasn't really used last year and only used on special teams. I don't see it. I think I made a video a couple of weeks ago on Jamie Sherwood. I think he's the player you more likely see break out at the linebacker spot. In the Seattle game and in the Dolphins game, Sherwood actually showed up quite a bit. He only played 25 snaps last season, something like that, a very small amount. But the incredible thing was he made like 10 solo tackles. He was really good in obvious rushing situations. His ability to get through traffic, to stick tackles. So I actually think that right now Sherwood is the favorite to take that step and leap at that spot. Super chat from the main catch. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here. Keep up the good work. Man, I'm so excited about this year. I don't know about you guys. I just can't wait to see how this unfolds. Dark Soldier, I skipped your question. Let me fly back through the chat and see what we got. Where are we, guys? Hang with me for 1 second. What do you grade JD's offseason moves? Including Aaron Rodgers in the entirety of the offseason, I think it's a B to a B+. I think that's kind of where we're at. I think there's some room for improvement in there. I think the Jets missed on a couple of big-time players, as I mentioned. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more superstar potential from the offensive skill position players. But realistically, the biggest hole this offseason was quarterback, and they got one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Do I think they overpaid? Yes, I do. I think they paid too many assets in a one-man race. I think JD kind of got pressured by Woody Johnson. That's what I think. But I'm not going to take away from the fact that it was a good move. I think I give the Jets somewhere between a B and a B+. So that's kind of my grade on the offseason. Ray agrees with my offensive line. I think that's what we're going to see. It's going to be primarily Becton at right tackle, AVT at right guard. Look, I don't think Mekhi's going to like that. It's a contract year for him. He wants to play left tackle, show the world he is a left tackle. I'm doubtful whether the Jets give him that opportunity, even though I would really like to see it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Phil might end on this one. He says, have you heard any news after the punt god, Matt Ariza, had a workout? Is he going to replace Moorhead as our punter? It's going to be interesting. I won't get into the logistics of that whole thing because I know Twitter had a bit of a meltdown a couple of days about the Jets bringing in the punt god and what it looked like. But yeah, I think he's a chance to come in and play. I think he would be an upgrade over Morstead. I think he's a huge upgrade over what we saw from the fake Spider-Man last year in Braden Mann. Mann did not punt well. He was disappointing, and he cost us Trevor Lawrence. So thank you very much, Braden Mann. But no, I think Arizia is going to be a chance to play here. I think that I haven't heard anything, but I think he is going to be an option for the Jets. Mike, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the super chat. Have a few beers on me. I will do. This weekend might have some fun, so I appreciate it. But I appreciate you, man. Don't worry about it. I appreciate the love. You're an absolute legend. So everybody, I appreciate you jumping in for the live. As I said, I'm going to try and do it more. I want to have some topics, but the big thing I want to do is break down the film with you. So what we're going to do is, it's decided, we're going to do a live video either the end of this week or the start of next week, and we're going to break down Garrett Wilson's film together. We're going to sit there. I'm going to have 10 to 15 clips. We're going to break down the Garrett Wilson from 2022, how he's going to see a jump in production with Aaron Rodgers, and how he fits into Hackett's scheme, and how he used Devontae Adams. So jump in the chat, tell your friends. We're going to break it down live next week. Mike, you're an absolute legend. You did not have to throw more in. I appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you very much. But guys, that's how we're going to end it. Join me next week for that video looking at Garrett Wilson's 2022 film. In between there, I've got videos coming out on the Jets' newest offensive tackle signing. I'm going to be looking at how good Quincy Williams' season was last year, whether I project him to be good next year, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So thanks for joining the PLAJ Jet family. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Stay tuned. Plenty of content in the pipeline, and I will catch you next time. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good night. Like the video.